Chapter 3. What Sleeps Below. The passage narrowed further, forcing the team to turn sideways in places, packs scraping against stone slick with condensation. Derek led, his headlamp catching motes of dust that hung motionless in the cold air, as though the cave itself were holding its breath. "This isn't natural," Deborah said, running her fingers along a groove in the rock wall. "Look at this. It's too regular, too smooth." Alison swung her light over. The groove was one of dozens, cut in long parallel lines that spiraled downward along the tunnel wall, like a stair rail carved for something far larger than a human hand. "Tool marks?" Alan asked, crouching to inspect one. "Or claw marks," Frank said quietly. No one answered him. The tunnel opened without warning into a vast chamber, and the team stopped dead at the threshold. Their headlamps, so confident in the narrow passage, seemed suddenly small and useless against the size of the space. The ceiling vanished somewhere above the reach of their lights. The floor sloped away into a bowl-shaped depression easily the size of a football pitch, ringed by columns of black stone that had clearly been shaped, not grown.
"Alison," Deborah breathed. "Get all of this." Alison was already moving, her shutter clicking in rapid bursts, the flash strobing the chamber in flat white pulses. Each flash revealed a little more. Carvings, hundreds of them, covering every column and every flat surface of rock. Alan approached the nearest one and felt his stomach turn cold. The carvings showed figures, tall, gaunt, human-like shapes with wings folded like a bat's, wrapped tight around their bodies, and long clawed hands reaching down towards smaller figures below them. Figures with their heads thrown back, their throats open. "Derek," Alan said, his voice unsteady, "you should see this." Derek crossed to him, field guide forgotten, and traced his light slowly across the panel. Above the winged figures, carved larger than anything else in the chamber, was a circle divided into phases, waxing from a sliver to a full disc, rendered not in the pale grey of the surrounding stone, but in a deep rust-red ochre that had somehow survived however many centuries down here in the dark. "That's not decorative," Derek said. "That's a calendar." "A calendar for what?" Frank asked. Deborah had moved to a second column, and her voice, when it came, had lost all its earlier enthusiasm. "There are marks under each phase, tally marks, grouped in, I count 9 groups, 9 cycles." She swallowed. "If this is what I think it is, whatever this was built for doesn't happen every year. It happens every few thousand years." "That fits," came a voice from the tunnel mouth behind them. Everyone turned. Jack stood at the entrance to the chamber, his machete drawn, his flashlight trembling very slightly in his grip. "You followed us down," Frank said. "I couldn't let you go alone once I saw the marks on the outer rock," Jack said. "There's a story the elders tell, one I never believed enough to repeat. A night comes, once in an age of men, when the moon turns the colour of blood, and something old wakes up hungry." He nodded toward the carving. "Jason's people call it Akatsul. It has no clean translation. The closest is the Eating Dark." "You're saying that's tonight?" Peter's voice cracked slightly. "I'm saying I don't know," Jack said. "But I know the sky was clear when we came down, and I know there's a lunar eclipse forecast for tonight, because the pilot mentioned it before he left us. I didn't think anything of it until now."
A silence settled over the chamber, thick enough to feel. "We should go back up," Alan said. "Right now." "Agreed," Frank said, already turning. "Grab what samples you can from the entrance. Nothing further in. We're not staying down here to—" He didn't finish the sentence. Somewhere below the depression at the center of the chamber, deep beneath the sloped floor, something shifted. It wasn't loud, more a pressure than a sound, a low, grinding vibration that traveled up through the soles of their boots and into their teeth. Dust sifted down from the unseen ceiling in slow, drifting curtains.
"What was that?" Deborah whispered. Frank's light found the floor directly ahead of them, and what they had taken for solid rock resolved in the beam of 6 overlapping headlamps into something else. Not stone. A surface, yes, but ridged and segmented, rising and falling in the faintest of rhythms, like the flank of something enormous, drawing slow, patient breaths. "That's not the floor," Allison said very quietly. "We're standing on the floor. That is under it." "Everybody back," Jack said, no longer whispering. "Now, move!" They didn't need telling twice. The team scrambled back toward the tunnel mouth, boots slipping on loose scree, headlamps swinging wild arcs of light across a chamber that no longer felt empty. Behind them, the grinding sound deepened into something with rhythm, with intent, and the ochre-red carvings on every column seemed, in the strobing chaos of their retreat, to catch the light and hold it a fraction of a second too long, like old paint remembering what it once was. They were halfway to the tunnel when the floor of the chamber split open. It did not collapse so much as unfold, great slabs of stone tilting upward like the lid of something rising from beneath. And from the crack that opened beneath them came a smell that hit Alan like a physical blow. Copper and rot and something else, something ancient and organic that made every instinct in his body scream to run. A sound followed the smell. A single rising shriek, high and inhuman, that was answered a heartbeat later by another and another, until the chamber rang with a chorus of them. "Climb!" Frank roared, shoving Deborah bodily into the tunnel mouth. "Go, go, go!" Alan was the last one through. And in the half-second before he threw himself into the narrow passage, he looked back. The first of them was rising out of the fissure in the chamber floor, wings unfurling in the dark like something being born. It was tall, taller than any man, its limbs too long, its skin the grey-black of old leather stretched over something skeletal. And where a face should have been, there was only a suggestion of one, teeth crowding a mouth that had never been built for speaking. Its head turned toward him, and it smiled. Alan didn't remember scrambling up the tunnel. He didn't remember the climb, or Peter's hands hauling him over the lip of the sinkhole into the grey light of dusk, or Jack screaming at Jason, who had come creeping back after all, unable to leave them, his face a mask of terror and vindication, to cut the rope the moment the last of them was clear. What he remembered later was the sky. Above the jungle canopy, low and swollen and burning a deep arterial red, the moon had begun to rise. And from the mouth of the cave behind them, the shrieking did not stop. If anything, it grew louder, layering into 100 voices, then more, spilling up out of the earth into the reddening dark.
"Move," Jack said, his voice raw. "Move now! We have to get everyone back to camp! We have to warn—" He never finished. Above them, silhouetted black against the swollen red disk of the moon, the first of the creatures broke free of the tree line and rose shrieking into the sky.
A few seconds later, a roaring, deafening sound overcame the words of Alan as he was about to speak, and the sky went black as hordes of these creatures clattered against each other and came flying out of the cave entrance and up into the sky, their deafening shrieks sending waves of terror through everyone present. It seemed the gates of hell had been opened.